Hello, hello. Happy Monday. I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. And I'm very excited to officially welcome you to this week's live Monday Music Motivation. So, for today, we're going to be exploring the very fine line between comparison and inspiration. And it's really interesting because I don't think we really realize that those things are so closely interconnected and as closely interconnected as it kind of dawned on me this weekend that they really are. And you may be familiar with the quote that often gets attributed to President Theodore Roosevelt of comparison is the thief of joy, which in a lot of ways I really believe to be true. But I also think that there's a way to compare that it can become one of your greatest sources of inspiration, actually, rather than stealing joy. It can inspire joy and inspire growth and progress, which is something that we're all interested in here, right? So the way that this kind of came up for me and kind of dawned on me, and one of the takeaways that I wanted you to get from this video is how important it is to surround yourself with better players, or at least other really, really great players. Over this past weekend, I did a series of 3 different shows, all the same program, but 3 performances of a recital with the CSU Pueblo faculty wind quintet, which was really, really fun and really satisfying. And all of my colleagues in that group are really, really fantastic musicians, and it's always an absolute pleasure and joy to get to play with them. But I was thinking about it, when I'm sitting in there, I could be hearing like these amazing like articulations and shaping and phrasing and technique and sound quality from the other players and be thinking like, ooh, imposter syndrome, like I don't belong here, like I don't sound as good as them, or my articulation isn't as clean as this, or my intonation isn't as good, or all of these things could be running through my head in kind of this comparison being the thief of joy kind of way, thinking like, I'm not good enough. They're doing this so much better than I am, and I don't belong here. And that's a great source of inspiration. And that's where I think comparison and inspiration are really different sides of the same coin, where you have this, if you have it with the right mindset, it's very inspiring to hear better players and to play with better players. And if you have it with the wrong mindset, it's very debilitating to play with better players and hear other players. I think part of the advantage of this being in the wind quintet setting is none of them are also playing the clarinet, so I can kind of chalk it up to like, oh, maybe on that instrument it is a little bit easier to get that articulation, so I'm going to figure out how to make the clarinet do that. So it's easier to get down that path of inspiration, whereas if it was maybe a clarinet quartet, for example, I might have that sense of, oh man, they're just doing that so much better than me. I suck. I should give up and quit. And that's where normally comparison is the thief of joy. But if we have the right mindset, it makes a huge difference. And what is that mindset, and how do we have that mindset to see those other better players as inspiration rather than debilitating comparison? Well, of course, it comes down to the growth versus fixed mindset. If you aren't familiar with Carol Dweck's work on growth versus fixed mindset, you should definitely check that out. I think the title of her book on it is literally titled Mindset with some kind of subtitle. It's by Carol Dweck. Dweck is her last name, I'm pretty sure. And in that growth versus fixed mindset idea, the fixed mindset person sees comparison, and when they do comparison, it is the thief of joy. A growth mindset person, when they compare, it's a source of inspiration. And the difference is the fixed mindset person will say, these are my abilities and this is what I'm capable of doing. So if you hear somebody doing things better than you, then you say, I suck because I can't do that. So what's the point of even trying? I give up. I quit. Growth mindset person says, these are where my abilities are currently at. This is how I'm currently performing. But I hear somebody do something better and I think, oh, I could do that too. I could rise to that level. I could get inspired by that and work harder to improve my skills and even sometimes in the moment too. There's tons of times playing in the quintet where I'll play something kind of like and then I hear somebody do it better and I'm like, ooh, I'll do it that way, and then I do it better immediately. And that's the value of playing with kind of better players and other great players, is you can feed off of their input and what they're kind of bringing to the table and say, that's cool. I'm going to imitate that. And that's the beauty of chamber music, and the beauty, again, of playing with other great players, is you get that inspiration in real time and can hear, that's cool that they have this nice interpretation of that. I can match that and I can do that as well. So hopefully you can see how that's the growth versus fixed mindset approach. Remember that this isn't a static thing. If you think I have a fixed mindset and I'm never going to be able to change, then that's also a fixed mindset happening. It's not static. You can change. You can have scenarios where sometimes you have a fixed mindset, sometimes you have a growth mindset. Like I explained in the wind quintet, being with other instruments, it's easier for me to have a growth mindset about it. Whereas if I was playing in a clarinet quartet and the other clarinetists were playing way better than me, then I'd probably have more of a fixed mindset and think, oh, they're doing this like so easy and sounding so good, and I can't do that. That's bad for me, and I shouldn't be here kind of mindset very easily. So the growth versus fixed mindset is not something that's static. In any situation, you can decide which mindset you're going to have. So next time you find yourself comparing yourself to somebody else and thinking, wow, how are they doing that? I'm never going to be that good. That would never be possible for me. Stop yourself and say, wow, that's actually possible on the instrument. Somebody is capable of doing that. That's physically possible. That's awesome. That means I can figure it out and I can rise to that challenge and be able to do that and get inspired to pursue that and grow through that comparison, rather than having imposter syndrome, getting frustrated and wanting to quit, and having that comparison steal your joy. So hopefully that makes sense. The one other kind of tangent of this that I slightly mentioned a little bit was how important and valuable it is to surround yourself with really great players and play with musicians who are better than you. And I'm not saying that I'm like necessarily by far the weakest link of the quintet. I don't think any of us are. I think we're actually all fairly well balanced. And we have different strengths and weaknesses too, so we can be inspired by different things and in different ways, which is awesome and valuable. So getting around players like that is so worthwhile. And when you find yourself around players like that, don't compare and say, they're so good, I'm so terrible. Compare and say, wow, they're doing these specific things really well. I want to see if I can do that as well. So hopefully that's all making sense. Last but not least, for our live Monday music motivation, we have our practice template. Here's what mine's looking like for the week. You can go to quickstartclarinet.com/get started to download this exact PDF template for yourself. Mine, and you can create it for yourself too in your practice journal, and you can elaborate on it and do whatever works best for you. But it's the date for the week, reflection of how things are going, goal for what you want to achieve in your playing, and then your plan for what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and how you're going to achieve that goal for that week. Because if you keep making goals every week and you keep showing up to achieve those goals every week, then you're going to keep getting better and better and better. So go fill that out. Take your plan, put it in your schedule, set the reminders, do all the stuff to make sure that it actually happens and it's actually scheduled for you, so you will show up and do it. Have a fantastic week of practicing, and I will see you next week on the next live Monday Music Motivation. Have a great week, everybody, and keep getting inspired by comparison and not debilitated, and don't let comparison steal your joy. Have a great week.